Well, welcome to another episode of Coronacation, Culture, Health and Spirituality in the Time of Coronavirus. I'm Naomi White in Brisbane, Australia, and right now I'm joined by Linda Dodds on the Sunshine Coast of Australia. How are you, Linda?
I'm fine, thanks, Naomi. Really good on Easter, Good Friday.
Friday, yes. Happy Easter.
Yeah, happy Easter.
So, Linda, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm a retiree. I'm 61 years old. I moved to the Sunshine Coast 11 years ago to join a lovely man that I'm now happy to call my husband. And prior to that, I was working in entertainment and events. I managed Sutherland Entertainment Centre for the last 11 years of my career in Sydney. And when I moved up to Queensland, I decided that I would pursue similar sort of work up here. But fate stepped in, and a couple of months after I arrived up here, I was diagnosed with cancer. I was found with a very large malignant tumour on my liver, and that necessitated a major operation and quite a long recovery. And 6 months after that, I had a second operation for yet another tumour. So after that, I decided that maybe my days were numbered. Maybe they weren't. Hopefully they weren't. But I wasn't going to spend them pursuing a career. I was going to enjoy my life as best I could. And fortunately, we're in a position financially where we can enjoy a comfortable life without being extravagant. So I left my two daughters in Sydney when I moved up. They were both in their early 20s at that time. But they're now both married. At 36, they're twins. One has two children. The other has two dogs. I go down to see them regularly, and I love doing that. I also am lucky enough to have 7 lovely step-grandchildren who we see quite a lot of in school holidays and that sort of thing. So I'm enjoying my life up here on the Sunshine Coast, but things have changed a little bit recently with the COVID-19, where
Yeah, well, tell us about that. How has this impacted you personally, this situation?
well, personally, I have a bit of a social group I go out with. I used to swim twice a week. We'd go down to the pool. I'd swim my 2 kilometres. I actually learned how to swim when I moved up here. I didn't know how to swim 1 lap of the pool, but I can now swim 2 kilometres. So we used to do that. We'd have coffee, we'd catch up. So we can't do that anymore. We used to like going on bushwalks through Noosa National Park. We can't do that anymore. So in that sense, it's made our lives a little bit smaller. Because of my cancer and because I had a recurrence last year, another tumour in my lung, I have to be extra careful about going out and who I come into contact with. So whilst most people in my age group are a little bit careful, I'm probably more careful than most. It's a bit of a concern, but I'm very, very happy that I had cancer last year and not this year, because
Gosh.
I cannot imagine, and I really fear for those people who are going through chemotherapy at the moment, whose immune systems have been trashed by the chemicals, and who now have this extra cloud hanging over their head because somebody whose immune system is compromised is just in very, very, very big trouble if they come down with this disease. So
Yeah,
it's something we all have to be mindful of, and it's not just older people. It's young women with breast cancer having treatment. It's little kids with leukemia. There's a whole range of people having cancer treatment, and people have to think of them as well as their immediate families when they worry about passing on this disease.
Absolutely. So what advice and perspectives have you got that may benefit other women going through this around the world?
Are you talking specifically about cancer or
About how to help? It could be people with cancer. It could be people generally. Just what do you think? What helps you adapt to this situation that others may benefit from?
That's a difficult question. What helps me? I suppose it's easy if you're in a happy relationship. It must be very difficult to be on your own at this time. I always have my husband to talk to. It makes it makes day-to-day living. We get on very well. We do things together, even if it's just binge watching The Crown on television. I still have that personal connection, so I'm lucky in that regard. I've also learned how to Zoom, which is which has been useful. I've been catching up with my sister and daughters for wine o'clock on a Friday evening, which is nice. We can all sit and have a little tipple and debrief on our weeks, and I've also done the same with my swimming buddies. So we once a week, one of us runs up to the lovely French patisserie in Perigian and gets little bags of pastries, drops them on people's doorsteps, and then we come back and we have a coffee together at 10 o'clock and eat our pastries and have a good chat. So I guess being inventive with how you communicate with people is I guess how we cope.
Do you think you have a different perspective? Because from what I understand from you, you're the daughter of refugees. Is that correct?
Indeed. My parents came out to Australia from war-torn Europe in 1949. When they arrived, my mother was pregnant with my brother. They came on an converted American troop ship after spending 3 years in a displaced persons camp in Würzburg in Germany, where they met and married. They'd always intended to go back to their country, but the Iron Curtain came down and it was pretty clear that wasn't going to happen, so they looked for a new place to settle. And luckily, at the right time, Australia opened its doors to family migration, and the rest is history. So knowing about the deprivation they went through during the war years and how hard it was when they first came to Australia with literally everything they owned in a wooden box, as big as a small packing crate. That was everything they owned. They came out and they worked hard, and they, at times when they were in the migrant camp, they didn't know where their next meal was coming from. And so when people start carrying on about not being able to buy enough toilet paper or not being able to buy the cut of meat they wanted or whatever, I think they need to get some perspective and realise that pretty much everybody who's alive these days has never known real deprivation in Australia. We don't know what it's like to not have something to eat. Even the poorest of the poor in Australia still have access to some services who will provide for them. So we need to have a level of gratitude that it's been so long since we've had a crisis, and we have to think about the people that had much worse problems than us in the past.
And I'm sure there are many of them around the world right now who are experiencing enormous hardship, far more than we could imagine right now. So
exactly.
Okay. Sorry. Okay. Well,
look, I was just going to talk about the people who have had to put off travel plans and all that. That's really upsetting if you've planned to go on an overseas trip. But realistically, where else would you rather be than Australia at this point in time? Imagine being caught in Italy or Greece or England even, I have a niece in Manchester who I'm a bit concerned about too, because things are pretty dire over there.
All beautiful places, but not right now in the midst of this crisis. So hopefully we'll get back there down the track. But Linda, thank you so much for your perspectives and for agreeing to chat to me today for Coronation. I wish you a wonderful Good Friday, and we'll speak soon.
Okay, thanks, Naomi. Bye.
You.